Welcome back into the Pig Trail Show and welcome into the Hog Hoops Report with Kevin McPherson. That's Kevin McPherson. I'm Evan Kamiko. Kevin, we are going to continue to talk about this big statement win from John Calipari and Arkansas men's basketball. They took down Kentucky yesterday. Let me get your thoughts on this win. How big was this, not only for Cal, but also for the team itself?
Yeah, I think it was huge on many levels. You know, the big talking points nationally is return of Cal to Rupp, but Arkansas badly needed a quality win in league play. The home win against Georgia was nice when you started 0-5. Now you've won 2 of your last 3, but you not only beat a ranked team on the road, a team that was ranked 10th in NCAA net rankings, but you now have shown some proof of concept that you can turn your season around and get back into a hunt for an NCAA tournament. Arkansas has not been on the bubble for a couple of weeks, let alone the wrong side of the bubble. They're not even in bubble talk. And now you jump 12 spots in the NCAA net ranking, going from 59 to 47 with that win. And now you've shown also, I think another key part of this is, Evan, Arkansas's now 3-5 in games away from home. That includes a 2-3 mark at true road games. That's respectable, and that's part of that resume that they'll look at the end of the year. What did you do away from home? So a couple of quad 1 wins now, pairing this one with Michigan. So, you know, looking at it from that context, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about what Arkansas's got left and how they can maybe get on the right side of that bubble, get back on the bubble on the correct side of it. But for one night, for Calipari to go back into that place, the energy there, a program where he was excelled in and in a building he excelled in for 15 years prior to the move to Arkansas, that kind of was an earthquake kind of a shift in college basketball back in the spring when all that went down. And then it wasn't just Calipari. Some of those assistant coaches on the staff, most of them. And then you look at players like Big Z, Adu Thero, DJ Wagner, even Carter Knox, who had signed with Kentucky and then flipped Arkansas when Calipari made the move. I mean, there were multiple reasons and storylines to be excited about this. But for me, if you're a Razorback fan and a proud basketball program after what Arkansas went through last year, and it looks like they're heading toward this year, it's just great to not only get a win, but beat the blue blood in the conference on their home court. And you still, with 10 SEC games to go, it's not too little too late. There's actually restored hope in this season. But I think in a bigger picture, because you're still got some unknowns with Calipari, who's, let's face it, he's not in the beginning or the middle or prime of his career. So, you know, what was this Arkansas experiment going to look like? We still don't know the answer to that. But for one night in a game like that, it restores hope not only for the season, but for where this thing could go with Calipari. And certainly when you've had a top 5 recruiting class in November, you don't want some of your top targets to start scratching their head a little bit going, what are we getting ourselves into here? Calipari's got a proven track record getting guys to the pros and getting them to perform and get them the kind of exposure they need in their 1 year in college, because it brings in a lot of one and dones. But you want to still show a model for success on big stages. And man, Arkansas got a lot out of that game last night. But I think at the end of the day, the feel good for Calipari and some of those players and assistant coach staff guys, I think that's the added, that's the icing on the cake. And there's nothing that feels better for Razorback fans than Big Blue Nation to have to look in the mirror the day after wondering what the hell happened. Arkansas doesn't have to worry about that. Now they got to worry about Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into Texas in just a little bit, but I kind of want to wrap a bow on this game, right? There's many things we could talk about when that comes to all the starters scoring in double digits, the great play, like you mentioned, from Big Z and Adu Thero, Nelly Davis getting back and going. But I think the reality is this win for Arkansas is so much greater than just one game, just getting back on track. They were dead in the water about 48 hours ago when it comes to any hope in the postseason. You're 1-6. You're staring into the abyss. Now you go and you get this win. And not only did you do it, in front of a small-scale audience, it was nationally televised. And just, again, credit to the University of Arkansas being able to keep this Hogs team nationally relevant. When you lose Eric Musselman and everything looks like it's going by the wayside, you end up getting Calipari. And, again, things were not going right for this program up until maybe last night when you look at the grand scheme of it. So the ability for this Arkansas team to rally around their coach and to essentially I love what they said after the game. We've got your back. They did. They went out. They won that game. And it just meant, I think, more for all the people, not only in the state of Arkansas, but college basketball fans around the country when it comes to this team being able to get themselves back on the bubble. Joe Lunardi's got them right in consideration, on the bubble of consideration right now. So there is a chance moving forward that this team can play itself into the NCAA tournament.
Well, you need more. You lost Boogie Fland. Arkansas's 2-3 since losing him. So you thought maybe it was going to get worse. And really, Arkansas showed, at least in the last couple of weeks, it can play a couple of different ways at home. They grinded down the pace, probably smart when you lost your best shot creator. And then against Kentucky, who's not the most physical team and plays a lot of 5-out basketball, Arkansas went in there and went toe-to-toe offensively with that team. And probably Arkansas was the more physical team when it mattered. I mean, look at a guy like Adu Theo, who's brought it all season long. Arkansas's most dependable player, the guy that carried him over the finish line to get that first SEC win against Georgia at home. Another big game for him, but 10 of 12 at the foul line. And then Nelly Davis, you mentioned it. This is the first game. And remember, this guy was not only preseason All-SEC, he's on National Player of the Year watch list around the country preseason. This was the first game in game 21 that I thought he played at an all-league level. Yeah, he had 18 points against Oklahoma in a close loss, bad shooting night. But you continue to see him get on the glass, create live ball turnovers. He got a couple of steals last night. But the 6 assists and the 18 points was efficient. But it's the first time this year that I saw him actually show some shot creation and not just catch and shoot and get a little bit hot for Nelly Davis, but he actually created some good looks for himself. Then he found other guys too off some of the ways that he got advantages and leverage against the defense. I haven't seen that for him once all year. And it's not like Arkansas stepped into SEC play and Nelly started to underperform. Even in non-conference against some of the quad fours, it just hadn't been there. So this was the first night, which means potentially, if it's not just lightning in a bottle, a guy like him joins forces with what Adu Thero's bringing consistently. Maybe Big Z. It seemed like he turned a corner on that shellacking by 18 points on the road against Mizzou to cap that 0-5 start. He had a double-double in that game after kind of being persona non grata for quite a while. And he's consistent, since that time being more productive and having better impact. Maybe there'll be a level of consistency from him. And the other guy I want to talk about real quick is Carter Knox. Mm-hmm. He's continued to show, hey, Arkansas had 2 McDonald's All-American. It wasn't just Boogie Fland. And the guy's really been playing in a capacity where I feel like he has embraced a role where he kind of understands better and better when to take shots, what his wheelhouse is, and then he's bringing a level of physicality off that wing. And there are qualities of him that are similar to Adu Theo. Arkansas's not gotten a ton of physicality from its true frontline pieces. So you getting that from Theo, and in some combination, Knox as well. And of course, DJ Wagner, a young man that saw guards that were freshmen last year, along with him at Kentucky, go in the first few picks in the lottery and the draft. Wasn't the kind of season as a top 10 rated 5-star McDonald's All-American. As a freshman last year at Kentucky, high ankle sprain. There's been a lot of question marks with him, and he's had an up and down season. But for him to put together that second half, it reminded me, hit a big second half in that win over Michigan. Arkansas's other quad 1 win, both quad 1 wins, by the way, away from home. This one last night, a true road game. But DJ Wagner had big second halves in both of those games. If he can give Arkansas some level of consistency as well, this is a dangerous team moving forward. I probably ran through just about everybody that showed up and put out last night. And tip of the hat to 2 guys who only played 10 minutes, Evan, each. Trevor Brazil and Billy Richmond III. I thought both of them gave Arkansas just enough scoring production and a few plays defensively here and there to help the whole thing come together. This is the most poised, most chemistry bound team in terms of Arkansas Razorbacks that I've seen all season long. It was even better than the Michigan game because Arkansas didn't fall behind by any double-digit margin in this one. Arkansas was solid in the first half, solid in the second half. and it was a cohesive group. It wasn't a team where you had one or two guys just playing 1-on-5 and they just happened to get hot that night and you got lucky to win. No, this was a game where everybody, all the pieces were fitting. And again, Wagner, 8 assists, Nelly Davis, 6 assists. That helps tell the story about it was more than just guys getting hot. It was guys playing the right way and playing together.
Yeah, and they weren't scared to shoot the ball. I think 13 of 25 from behind the arc, if I'm reading that correctly. And that's something we haven't seen Arkansas do very successfully this whole year, was shoot the ball. You knew Kentucky, after watching the first 4 or 5 minutes, I was like, man, this is going to be a track race between these teams. Can Arkansas keep up? And the reality is they did. They put up the most amount of points that they've had all season in 89 in SEC play. It was how they knew they had to win the game. They went out, they executed, and they got the really big win for John Calipari in his return to Rupp Arena. Let's kind of look forward, Kevin, really quickly, and because it's one game. You've got about 10, 11 games left to go before the SEC tournament starts. Now, there's always a chance, right? You can always say there's a chance because that's just how sports works. When you look at the future of this team and the upcoming opponents that they have, is it realistic to Hog fans to get their hopes back up for an NCAA tournament run?
Yeah. I think Arkansas can't afford another 3 or 4 game losing streak. 0-5 start, but have won 2 of their last 3. I think at minimum now, with 10 more SEC games to go, it's reasonable to think if Arkansas just split those. So if you're going to go 5-5, you can't really afford to have a bad run of 3 or 4 straight losses. You got to start picking them off. Texas is a good team, a team that's also improving. That's the next game on the road in Austin. The Hogs will get the Longhorns back in later this month in Fayetteville in the round robin. But to me, this is still a winnable game. If you can go on the road and beat Kentucky, yeah, it's a different style. But Texas is susceptible. It's not been a great team. It's also, similar to Arkansas, came in with preseason rankings and things haven't gone quite that well. So, but Texas is playing better. That's going to be tough. But Arkansas needs to cobble together at minimum now, win one, lose one. If you get to 7-11 and by going 5-5 the rest of the way out, I think that's good enough for Arkansas to be on the correct side of the bubble going in the SEC tournament in the projections. But to do that, again, you've got to be more consistent. And I think one big win at Kentucky, a lot of emotions, stars aligned. What can you carry over from that? How do you, because after Texas, you come home and you've got Alabama in your house. And that's a Final Four contender, in my opinion, a legit one. And then you get LSU again. So if Arkansas can find a way to go 2-1 and 2-1 in these next 3 games, I think this team is definitely on a path to getting itself back in position to make the NCAA tournament. Go 1-2, you're not completely derailed, but you need to get at least a win in these next 3 games. And then, if they go 0-3, you're probably looking back going, well, Kentucky was an outlier. That was just one of those special nights, and this team just doesn't have what it takes to get over the hump. So the margins are really small for Arkansas right now. And 5-5 didn't sound like, well, that doesn't sound that difficult. Yeah, Arkansas's 2-6. They're on pace to finish 5-13 based on their total body of work in the league right now. So they're going to have to be better than their pace at this point. But 2 out of the last 3, if you wanted to just shrink it down to that, maybe there's something there where they can, go 5-5. A 6-4 locks them in. Finish 6-4, you're 8-10. That will lock this team into the NCAA tournament, regardless of what happens in the SEC tournament. But 5-5 to get to 7-11 probably does the trick as well. I don't think 6-12 would probably do it for this team. I think there may be a couple other SEC teams where a 6-12 finish might. I'm not sure Arkansas's non-conference resume was good enough for that to work and not need to do more work in the SEC tournament.
Yeah, and not to mention, too, you've got a lot of really tough opponents in some games that are right on the bubble. You got a Vanderbilt team coming up really soon. You still got to see Mississippi State. Auburn's another one of those teams you have to play. So it's going to be a challenge. There's no sugarcoating it. This SEC, as you and Jacob have talked about for weeks, as we've talked about before, is an absolute gauntlet. But there is a chance. Now, the last thing we kind of touch on before we go, we're saying there's a chance, right? In your honest opinion, what is the chance, right? Like, what has to happen? What do you need to continue to see for that chance to continue to grow? Because I think 18 to 19 wins overall on the season should get Arkansas into the SEC tournament, definitely, but also the NCAA tournament. So what's the key here? Who has to go on this run? Is it Big Z? Is it Nelly? Is it both?
Yeah, I think it's committee. I think Nelly's the guy, though, that you need game in and game out, uh, to not only be productive, but to add some value in other places, which he's been doing. He's been creating live ball turnovers and some dead ball turnovers as well. He's sneaky good defensively. He's going to usually give you anywhere from 4 to 6 rebounds out of that backcourt. But on offense, I love seeing him actually create some opportunities and not just be a beneficiary of off catch and shoot. You can't be an all league guy unless you're shooting 50+% from three. If you're going to play that way, you need to be able to create and generate a little bit. So yeah, I think someone's going to have to step up consistently to be a Batman or Robin to Thero when he's either Superman or Batman, whatever night it is for him in that regard. Guys like Big Z, Jonas Adu is going to have to come back around, and he's had a couple of 2 or 3 good games there. Trevor in Brazil needs to continue to contribute. Carter Knox is another guy that can give Arkansas 10 to 12 points a game. I think it's committee. I think DJ Wagner, you could throw him in there with Nelly as a guy that you say, okay, we really need you to consistently. Some guys it can be on one night, off the other night, but you probably need 2 or 3 that you can consistently depend on. And in DJ's example, a solid facilitator who's getting quality shots. And for him, most of his quality shot looks are getting to the basket, little floater game, getting all the way to where he likes to finish off the backboard. While he's got his momentum, sometimes carrying him away, he still turns and has a nice finish going left and right. So you want to continue to see guys like he and Nelly be consistent, and then the others around them. If 1 or 2 guys, it's their off night and they're not having their best night, maybe 1 or 2 others picking up the slack and kind of oscillating. But I'd drill it down, to Thero maintaining. He's been great all year, and guys like Nelly and DJ maybe trying to keep it in the similar gear to what they did last night.
Yeah, Kevin, we don't know what the future is going to hold for this team, but the one thing we do know is it should be a very exciting finish to the end of the regular season. That is going to do it for the Hogs Hoops Report. For Kevin McPherson, I'm Evan Camico. More Picture Show coming up after the break.